welcome to Where to Ski. I'm John Morgan. Today's episode takes us to Montana. Grab your skis, and let's check out Big Sky. Our guest today is Zoe Mavis. Zoe's a legend at Big Sky, where she's been the training manager for the Mountain Sports School for 13 years. She's also a two-term member of the PSIA-AASI National Team. Zoe's been teaching skiing since she was 15, has a passion for outdoor education in both skiing and water sports. Big Sky is a huge, incredible resort, has something for everyone. 5,850 acres, a vertical of 4,350 feet, spread over 3 peaks, which are served by 26 lifts, most of them new. It's halfway down Montana's Gallatin River Canyon between Bozeman and the west entrance to Yellowstone National Park, about an hour drive south from Bozeman Airport. The big runs, amazing vistas, incredible bases. You can't ski this area in a day. It takes 3 just to get started. Big Sky's got an interesting story, too. It was envisioned and initially developed by news broadcaster Chet Huntley, who died 3 days before its opening in 1973. Since then, it's grown, expanded, and become a world-class resort. So let's talk to Zoe, take a trip up Lone Peak, see what makes Big Sky tick, and see how the mountain skis. Zoe, welcome to Where to Ski. Thanks for joining.
My pleasure. Good to be here.
Well, I grew up in Vermont. Big Sky's a little bit different. It's got terrain that probably would cover a good chunk of Vermont. Where should we start? Maybe you can give our listeners an overview of what to expect when you drive up from Bozeman.
Absolutely. You are right. Big Sky is quite a bit bigger. We have about 5,800 skiable acres here at the resort, which is awesome. So a lot to explore for everybody. Generally, folks will fly into the airport there in Bozeman, Belgrade, technically, just outside of Bozeman, and you get to drive up the Gallatin Canyon Road. Beautiful mountain road, kind of windy along the river in a canyon there. And the great thing is you turn off the road towards Big Sky, towards the town of Big Sky, and your first thing that you get to see is the peak of Lone Mountain. And if you get it on a clear day, it's pretty awe-inspiring and still takes my breath away. And then you get to drive up another about 7-8 miles up to the base of the resort here.
That's pretty cool. You know, that mountain attracts all types of skiers, beginners, intermediates, experienced skiers, and some extreme skiers. And you guys have made a huge investment in lifts and facilities over the past few years. Has that made a huge difference?
Absolutely. The awesome thing is all of the kind of infrastructure that's being built and added to in Big Sky is really helping with the skier experience. So the lifts that have bubbles and heated seats allow us to stay out on the hill longer, stay warm longer, take faster laps, spread out on the mountain more, and just get more laps in, which is awesome. Also, the infrastructure is helping utilize the mountain and all the acreage that we have. So everybody can kind of go and explore where they want to.
That's pretty cool. I love the heated seats. That makes a huge, huge difference. Wow.
It really does. Yeah.
So Big Sky is also it's a newer mountain. It's a newcomer to the Big Ski Mountain Club. What's the culture like in the area for the people who live there?
Yeah. So, Big Sky did start in the 70s, but you're right. It was pretty small and unknown for a while. Now that some more people know about us, it's a phenomenal community to be in. I've lived here for almost 13 years now, and the town itself has maybe 3,500, 4,000 year-round residents and is growing, which is awesome. Our little mountain community is growing, and there's a lot of awesome things that happen in the summertime. There's fun events and things that both locals and tourists can go to. And then the wintertime, we get some influx of folks who are just here seasonally, but more and more are building a long-term community, and it feels a lot just like one of those tight-knit mountain towns with some amazing people who just want to make their life here. So when you come to Big Sky, you really feel the Montana hospitality, which is awesome. It still feels small town and like people are inviting you into their homes and the place that they love, but still with some of the amenities and the things that you might look for in a typical resort town.
I didn't know it had grown to 3,500. That's getting pretty big. I thought it was more like 500. That's getting there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's on the rise, which is awesome. And there's more year-round work for professionals who want to be in this industry and be here full time. And so that's a really cool thing. Is there's also for myself personally working within the snow sports world, there's a group of folks here who are true professionals who want to make this a career, and you can find a great community there with it.
So let's talk a little bit about skiing. That's what most of my listeners want to listen to, is what the skiing's like. Let's start with experts without hitting. Let's leave Lone Peak out of it. What's a go-to day of skiing?
Sure. Well, if you're not going to go up the tram, there's still an infinite amount of terrain out there to have fun with. So a really popular chair here at Big Sky is the Challenger chair. And it's been at the resort much longer than the tram has. So experts have been skiing that terrain even before they had access to the tram. And there's all sorts of aspects off the Challenger chair that can be kind of beginner side of experts all the way to the extreme, cliff drops, that sort of stuff, tight trees. And then everywhere else on the mountain, there's a lot of tree skiing. There's a lot of steep skiing. Over on the south side, Shedhorn in Dakota is super popular for its little bit lower angle tree skiing, but really fun, open, generally a lot of snow with big storms, but still that south facing.
There's a lot of chutes up there too, over on the right side.
Yeah, so that's the north side, and you might be referring to, there's a couple different sort of bowls and cirques that we have here. The bowl, which we just refer to as the bowl, where the powder seeker chair is a wide open bowl that you can kind of choose your own adventure as deep as you want to get at it. It's kind of single block all the way to double block terrain. And then off the Challenger chair, you can hike up a ridge line, and off that ridge line to the south side is the A to Z chutes. And those will lead into the bowl. So steep, short shots when they're open are super awesome, south facing. So it is snow dependent. On the north side are the famous headwaters. So the headwater chutes are super extreme. It is primarily hike to terrain. There is a small lift that you can access a couple of them from. And they've been known to host free ride championships and all sorts of competitions. And people will certainly be in that terrain who are comfortable in expert skiing conditions and kind of know a little bit about being in a place where it's a no-fall zone.
Okay, so now let's include the tram in the conversation.
Yeah.
You got to pick your day to go up on the tram. You want to pick it on a decent day, so it's not something you're going to do laps on too often.
It depends. You know, our lift ticket now includes the tram access for this winter. And so you can kind of pick and choose when you want to go up there for sure. But the fact that we have a new tram and it's a 75 passenger means that there's not much wait time generally. A Bluebird day, a lot more people want to be up there. And so there might be a longer wait. But if you have a little bit higher tolerance and are willing to go up there when visibility isn't perfect, there can still be great skiing to be had up there. The tram offers a lot of different expert aspects. You can ski about 300 degrees of the mountain up there. The south side is going to be, I don't want to say easy, but a little bit easier, starting with Liberty Bowl, which is a single block, but still a little bit challenging to get into. And then it opens up. Marks and Lennon are other popular runs there off the south side. Wide open, really steep, exposed terrain. And then, of course, there's some more challenging pieces up there if you navigate to them as well.
What's the snow like up there? You know, I'm looking at some of the gullies and stuff, for example. It looks like it's steep. You got a fair amount of powder. You know, in a good winter, you never know what it's going to be like. But in a good winter, you get a fair amount of powder. And then you've got some, let's say, some very steep, like short cliffs you need to get over. And then it looks like it evens out pretty well after that.
Yeah, so the gullies it's a very steep aspect. I completely agree. So a lot of the skiing off the tram, like I said, is very exposed. So even if you're used to skiing terrain that's potentially that same grade, but with trees on it or other obstacles, it feels less exposed, like you could maybe stop if you fell. The tram has a lot of places that are kind of a no-fall zone or a place where you have to know how to self-arrest because it's just a large aspect. And if you did fall, you could maybe slide quite a ways. So the gullies are one of those examples. The snow generally on the tram is what I would call chalky. Because of our high alpine, we're a little bit more of an arid environment. We generally get a handful of inches every couple days. That keeps the snow fresh, keeps it kind of grippy, chalky, kind of carvable. And for me, as an ex-racer, I really love those conditions. You can kind of lay it over a little bit, get some good grip in there. But it also means that you do need to be able to keep your skis underneath you, be able to make some good controlled turns in those steep aspects so that you can navigate safely.
Yeah, it's called body position, angulation. Put the knee in the hill and lean over. And just arc them. That sounds like a lot of fun. Are there special conditions, things you need to do when you go up the tram? Do you need to check in with ski patrol, things like that? Take AAASI gear?
That's a great question. And it definitely depends on where you plan on going. So if you plan on just skiing kind of the generally open terrain, which might be that south side, potentially the gullies, you do not need to check in with patrol. Certainly recommend that you know where you're going and you're an expert skier to be able to navigate there. If you are going to go into any of our special access terrain, so that would include the Big Couloir and the North Summit Snowfield, you do need to have a slot. So patrol needs to know that you're going there. And then for the Big Couloir, they do require some avalanche gear, meaning a beacon, so that they can check you out, give you a slot. You have to go with a partner, and they know that you're there.
Yeah, you talk a little bit about avalanche control. I assume that there's some pretty serious AAASI control you guys do up there.
Absolutely. We have a phenomenal group of patrollers, like really one of the most pro team that I've seen in the industry. And they do a great job of making sure that they go through every inch of the mountain and mitigate that avalanche danger for general public and those of us enjoying it. That does mean that sometimes after a storm, the upper mountain won't open for a day, potentially, maybe two. So those are things to know in your plan if you're thinking about coming to Big Sky. Is our patrol team is going to make sure that they make the choice that is going to mitigate some risk for us and those skiing here, even if it's maybe not what the powder hounds want. So patrol is always out there looking out for us and making sure that they're doing their due diligence. And for them, that means a lot of early mornings. So we really appreciate that they get up and go do that, especially on those days when it's really chilly.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, if you wake up and you hear booms, you might ski the lower mountain for a while.
Yeah, you'll know that it's going to take a little bit for that upper mountain to open. Absolutely.
And I assume that when the rumor gets out that the tram's going to open, it's like mass exodus right up to the tram, so you can get there first.
It certainly can be.
You talked about a little bit about maybe using guides in some cases. Does that make sense, or an instructor guide, however?
Yeah. Yeah, so like I said, we have 5,800 skiable acres, Big Sky, and then the north side where we have our other base area, Madison Base, used to actually be two different resorts that have combined. And so to be able to see even a portion of the mountain on your own is quite a feat. So I definitely recommend for those who are coming and wanting to explore as much as Big Sky has to offer, maybe get the great skiing, know which aspect to go to, how to travel between base areas, between lifts. Having a guide is going to be super helpful. And we generally offer a full day or a half day option for that. And if you wanted to, if you are that powder hound, we can add an 8 a.m. access if you want to get on the lifts a little early to get a little bit of that either fresh snow or fresh corduroy.
Okay, that answers that. And even for families, people who don't, it's a big enough mountain that it sounds like it would make sense to have somebody show you around so you know where you can ski the first day you're there.
Absolutely. I always recommend it just because the time it does take to sort of learn the mountain, once again, it's so vast and large, and there's like I said, 300 degrees of the mountain we can ski. So that's a lot of different travel routes that you can end up on. And I would always recommend to folks to have a bit of a guide, at least for that first day, so that they get their bearings and know generally where they want to go and how they can stick together, or if they do split apart, how they can come back together.
Okay. Does the mountain ski with the sun, like is there a certain place you go in the morning and then you work your way another direction over the course of the day?
Generally, you can, absolutely. Like I said, we have a southern exposure and a northern exposure. A lot of times, because Big Sky is a lot of it above a tree line, a lot of folks will ski it depending on what the wind did the night before. So a lot of folks will generally focus more on wind events than how the sun affected it. But in general, just like most places, the north side will stay cooler and the snow will stay a little bit firmer, a little bit chalkier, especially later into spring.
Okay. Now, we've been talking a lot about the expert skiers. How about intermediates or even beginners?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of terrain for those guys there too. I'm, looking at that whole, I guess it's the south side. Looks like I think it's the south side.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up because a lot of people think about Big Sky as an expert skier spot because of the terrain, because we have such a huge amount of expert skiing. But in reality, it's actually really family friendly, really friendly for beginners and intermediates because we have a big chunk of green and blue terrain. Like you said, the south side, sort of the southern comfort area, has a lot of wide open, mellow terrain that people just love cruising on. And that is one thing that I always hear guests say when they come is they're always excited and surprised with how wide our runs are. So there's a lot of space here, right? We live in Big Sky country in Montana for a reason. The reason we want to spread people out on these acres is because we want you to be able to feel that freedom to kind of be alone on the run. And that's the great thing about a lot of our intermediate terrain is it gives people a lot of space to move at their own pace, make the turns that they want to make. And a lot of folks really love finding their niche here in that intermediate spot. You can still get up on some beautiful vistas, get some amazing views, and still be challenged. And we have enough beginner and intermediate terrain that I don't think you'd get bored either.
So about half the mountain is above tree line and the other half is down in the trees. I assume a lot of the intermediate is hit with the trees. So you get some depth perception. It makes it a little bit easier sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So generally, a lot of our beginner intermediate terrain is a wide open run that's lined with trees. But we do have a run that's off of our powder seeker chair that's up in the bowl. That is a groomed blue. And if you want to talk about kind of feeling like you're up in the mountains, a little bit of exposure and unbelievable views, it's one of the best places to go and ski and feel like you're on a different planet.
That sounds like fun. That sounds awesome. Now, when to go to Big Sky? Montana can get cold.
Yeah.
The snow's good in January. From my memory is the snow's really good in January. It's light, but it can get cold. And as you said before, it's a little wind dependent. What's the best time to go up there, do you think?
That's a great question. And I will once again say it kind of depends, right? So I do agree, January can be kind of cold. If you're willing to brave the cold, once again, we have heated seats, bubble chairs. So there are some ways to mitigate that. You can always put some thermic heated socks in your boots. That always helps. But January is great because it's generally just locals and not a ton of people here. And so that's always kind of a fun time to be able to explore the mountain. But generally our snowfall hits a little bit heavier and we get a little bit more warmer temps once we kind of get into that spring zone. So that's end of February into March, even April. April is actually one of my favorite times to be skiing at Big Sky. A lot of the spring break folks have moved along and the mountain has great coverage, but it's sunny and beautiful and you get a little bit of that spring condition back.
And again, you don't hit the cold of Montana. It sounds pretty nice up there. What about people who don't ski? That's now that you've told me that the town has grown to 3,500, there's probably a lot more to do than there was a few years ago. Absolutely.
So to give people kind of an idea, Big Sky Resort is sort of at like the top of the hill, you might say. Just 7 miles down is the mountain village the meadow village. And so that's like our town center. There's plenty of shops, restaurants, parks, things to walk around and do there. In that zone, Lone Mountain Ranch is there. So there's cross country skiing and they actually have about 60 miles of groomed trails. So if you don't want to try your hand at alpine skiing, there's cross country skiing with coaches and that sort of stuff if you wanted to try that. Also great walking trails. Here at the mountain, we actually offer a couple different winter activities, the main one being snowshoeing. And so there's actually a lot of beautiful snowshoe trails around here. And if you want to talk about being serene and out in the mountains and enjoying it without having to maybe get the extreme piece of skiing or snowboarding, you can go on a snowshoe hike, you can go on your own, or you can go guided as well if you wanted someone to take you along and show you where it's at. Up at the mountain village here at the mountain, we also do have some shopping and some hangout zones, restaurants, that sort of stuff as well.
And I assume there's things like spas, and obviously the restaurant scene up there has grown a lot. And
Absolutely.
talking about restaurants on the hill,
Yeah.
what kind of food is there on the hill? I'm sure you've got your own favorite spots where you take people and where you dive into when you just need a break.
Totally. So we actually have a lot of great options. Something to just for people to be aware of is during our peak times, right? During those holiday times, plan ahead, because just like any resort, during kind of that lunch hour, things are going to be a little bit busier. So if you can kind of push your lunch hour early or late, that's always going to be helpful. Here in the base area of Big Sky, we have kind of like an eatery, kind of what you might call a cafeteria, but there's a lot of great options there. We have like poke bowls and great sandwiches and pizza and all that sort of stuff. And for me, working regularly, generally that's my place to go because you can get good food quickly. But once you're out on the mountain, there's a couple options. At the top of our Ramcharger chair, we have a restaurant called Everett's 8800. A little bit more of a luxury on-hill dining experience. So you definitely want to make a reservation. It's super popular and it gets filled up. They are on open table. But they have amazing sort of Montana fare. I really love, like their burger is awesome. They do an elk chili that's delicious. And you get great views of the peak. You get to kind of ski right in there. It's right at the top of the mountain. It's a great spot. If you also wanted to dine on the mountain on our south side, there is a Montage Hotel, and they have a couple of restaurants in there. Same, a little bit more elevated service. You can make a reservation or not. You can kind of ski over there, pop in, have lunch, and then ski back out. New this year, they're opening a one and only hotel on the north side, and they're going to have a public lodge that will have sort of like an après restaurant that you'll be able to take a gondola to and go and enjoy that as well.
So I think you hit the best burger spot on the mountain. What about the best breakfast?
Ooh, best breakfast. Quite honestly, our cafeteria here at the Mountain Village, it's called Vista Hall. They make a breakfast sandwich and a breakfast burrito that I think every employee here generally eats during the winter. And so you can't go wrong with it.
Now, what about nightlife? That's a big mountain. I couldn't see doing a day of skiing and last past like 9 o'clock, but some people love to go out at night and just rip it apart. What's there to do at Big Sky around that? It's still a little limited.
So, it's growing. Like I said, the town is growing. First and foremost, the thing that I really love is we generally have an opera scene here at the base area. So especially moving into spring, there's usually a DJ. Some afternoons we have an umbrella bar out here on the patio. And so there's a lot of times there's music and drinks and all that sort of stuff, and it's a great time. Other things that we have is down in town, there's a bunch of different bars and restaurants that do live music, happy hours, all that sort of stuff. Sometimes, like I was looking at one tonight is doing like a dance class. And so there's a lot of actually options in town that people would be surprised to see. If you go on like the Big Sky community page, they always list what live music is happening and where to go and do what. But just downtown in the downtown like town center is a main street, and all up and along there are bars and restaurants, and that's where people generally gather.
So it's pretty well developed. So a dance class tonight, huh?
There's a country western dance class happening down at Tips Up.
So let's talk a little bit for a minute about your philosophy on skiing. You ski with a lot of different people you instruct, and you get a chance to talk to a lot of people. And I'm sure that you, now that I've gotten to meet you, transmit your love and passion for the sport to those people. Some of it's around the beauty. What do you really go to when you talk to people about it, Big Sky, and about skiing in general?
I think the beauty about skiing, and this is what I say to a lot of people, is it's a sport that can cross over generations. And so something that I always love to see is that you can have people of different abilities and different ages out on the slopes together, enjoying it together. I think about families or friend groups that maybe they, split apart and go ski a few runs on their own, but they can come back together and enjoy the experience of being on the mountain. I think it's a really special thing to be outside in the elements and enjoying something physical with each other, while you can choose your own adventure, right? Choose your own pacing, choose your own risk. I think not often in life anymore these days do we get that opportunity to explore something a little bit risky, something fun, something that we maybe need to have a little bit of toughness for, right? We might have to put on a jacket or some heated socks, but then go out and enjoy it and be able to have that shared experience with people that we love. I think that's the biggest thing about being in the alpine environment, and we all know it, is like, certainly there's a rush of doing the sport itself. We all know that, those of us who've come to skiing, but we all know that we stay because there's a special connection of the people that you get to share it with, right? And so I just think having that community, whether it's family, friends, or whatnot, is probably the best part about the sport.
That's a topic that comes up quite a bit, about being able to ski with family, ski with friends. And that's what really makes this sport special. And that's, I think we all enjoy that. Now, what's your favorite day? No work. What's your favorite day? Where would you head to and what would you do? A bluebird day, no wind.
That's a really difficult question.
That's why I'm here. That's why I get paid the big bucks, to ask the hard questions.
There you go. So I love this mountain so much, and I love so many pieces of it. So a perfect day for me would be starting early. My first lap would probably be on Elk Park Ridge, which is, you can get to it off of the Ramcharger chair. It actually loops all the way around down to the base of Thunderwolf. So if you're driving up to the mountain, it's the big, long, groomed path that you see. It's just like a wide open, perfect blue run, and just like the best way to start your day. Best way, just rips and turns down Elk Park Ridge.
Like 50-mile-an-hour big ass GS.
Well, look out for other people on the hill. But
at that early, you should be okay.
Exactly, but certainly within control, I like to rip a few turns down there, and it's beautiful views, beautiful grooming, and it's awesome. So I would certainly start my day there. I would probably then go explore, depending on what conditions might be and where they have, into some of our trees and bumps. We have world-class bladed terrain here, which is really awesome, and every year they add more. So I'd probably go explore some of that. And then I would end up probably up on the peak somewhere, being able to get some great views, some wide open runs, and then probably end up over on the north side, over our Madison base. They're sitting on the deck having a drink with some friends.
That sounds like an awesome day. Now, if any of our listeners wanted to track you down, what's the best way to find you? Is that through the ski and snowboard school up there?
They can always reach me through the ski and snowboard school. Mountain sports is what we call it. That's our department here. You can always reach out to me on Instagram. Zoe Mavis Ski is my handle, and so I'm on a lot of social media platforms that way. But yeah, I'm here at the Mountain Sports School 9 months out of the year, and always happy to answer people's questions, help direct them in the right place.
So if you had one thing to let people know about Big Sky, what would you, both the town and the mountain, what would it be?
That people spend time here based on their love of the mountain environment. Like it's not a competition for who's the best skier. It's not a competition for who's dressed best. It's not a competition who paid more for their steak, right? What I really love is this place brings all sorts of people together because we love the environment, we love the sport, and we love the community. And you feel that with everybody you interact here.
Nice. Zoe, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about visiting Big Sky. You might see Zoe anywhere on the mountain in the winter arcing some big turns. If you want to contact her, the Mountain Sports School is the right place to reach out. If you like our podcast, please share them and subscribe on our website, wheretoski.org. It's free. Stay connected to us. Listen to perspectives on some of the world's best mountains from the legends that live there. Thanks for joining, and thanks to the Grits for the music.
She feel it, we feel it.